What's up, Oilheads, and welcome to the Oilhead 259 video companion series, episode 5. I'm Chris, host of Oilhead 259. We have made a lot of progress on our 1998 R1100 GS that ran when parked. In fact, we're about ready to hear it run again. Now, if you're just joining us, go back and check out the previous episodes to catch up on all the things that we've done so far on this bike. In the last episode, we replaced the hall sensor, the alternator belt, and the fuel filter. We also learned how to make a tool to test the output of our fuel pump and a tool to lock the flywheel on jobs that require a locked flywheel. Just a couple days ago, we got our tank back from being lined. Check out how great it looks on the inside. All that super flaky, thin red stuff has been flushed out and replaced with this thick, hard silver lining that should last for the life of this bike. Now, if you remember our plan coming out of the last episode, it was to get the fuel pump assembly reinstalled inside the tank, get everything hooked back up, get the tank back on the bike, and test the fuel pressure to see if all of the work we've done so far made a difference. Well, that was the plan. Unfortunately, I ran into a little snag putting the fuel pump assembly back together.
So we've got our fuel pump here. We've tested it and made sure that it works. Got the new fuel filter on, got everything locked down. So all we have to do is put the sock back on. All we have to do is put the sock back on. This doesn't fit. This doesn't fit. So, okay. We have the original. Oh, would you look at that? These are completely different sizes. That's not good. Does this, let's see if this fits. Okay, so this doesn't even fit back on. What is going on here? What is going on here, friends? This has to be an aftermarket fuel pump then, which I wish I had noticed beforehand. And it looks like there should be, yep, this is totally broken. It's kind of hard to tell because it's almost uniform all the way around, but looks like that there was a little rubber or plastic lip that came up that this fit into, and it is gone. So likely this lip is part of all of that junk we found at the bottom of the tank, and this thing, when we took it out, was barely holding on, and now it won't even go back on. So looks like we're gonna need a fuel pump. Or if I can find this piece online, we'll be able to replace just this, and then it should be fine. The problem is I have no idea what brand this fuel pump is, where it came from, or anything. So I'm gonna have to hunt down and find something that looks similar. This is kind of a unique screen, so perhaps I can use this to identify the fuel pump. Well, we're gonna have to remove the fuel pump one way or the other. So let's go ahead. We have the single ear hose clamp attachment tool, which also doubles, or at least is supposed to, as a removal tool. I should be able to clip these right off. Although that is not easy at all. There we go. Very, very stiff, this hose. Oh yeah, no, that's done. You can see that thing cracking and just falling apart. It's completely stiff. So we're not gonna worry about retaining its. All right. Okay, so it looks like that this doesn't come off. In the OEM fuel pumps, this vibration reducer comes off the pump. In this pump, it does not. So I'm not even going to be able to find a replacement for this. It looks like we're just going to have to replace the pump. After all of our testing and all of our good work, we're going to have to replace this pump anyway. That is personally disappointing. All right, well, that is how hard and crumbly that hose was. This is the same age as whatever was in the bottom of the tank for sure. Well, we got it all off. I'm gonna keep this around at the shop to use for a test pump if we ever need a test pump. But other than that, this thing's no longer gonna be useful to anyone.
Well, that pretty much puts a kibosh on our plans to get this thing running this week. I need to contact the customer, break it to them that they need a fuel pump replaced after all, find out whether they would prefer a new or used one, and then either order it or take it off one of our parts bikes and put it through the same testing that we did last week. Unfortunately, this happens all the time with vintage bikes. You go in with a plan and then discover other issues that crop up. It's especially common in oil heads that the plastic and rubber parts are crumbling and break down at the slightest provocation. Time is not kind to petrochemical solids. Sometimes you just have to do whatever you can to keep the project moving forward. We can still investigate the oil buildup that's inside the airbox and prep the bike to identify any oil leaks that are coming from underneath the case once we get the bike running. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of the episode. Let's get to it. Unlike on airheads, the air filter housing, airbox, and intake manifolds are all one piece, and you can't get into them without removing them from the bike. And the only way to get to them there is by splitting the whole bike in half. If it turns out that we have a rear main seal leak, we are going to have to go that route. The oil inside the airbox could be from the seal leaking, but it also could be years of blow-by that's built up. Overall, it's much less expensive to figure out first if we actually have a problem before we try and fix that problem. So instead of trying to get into the airbox and see if we have a leak, we're just going to clean the whole airbox out. And once we get the bike running, put it through a few cycles, ride it a little bit, we're going to look back inside the airbox to see if we have a buildup of oil that would indicate a rear main seal problem. With all that in mind, we're going to clean out as much oil as possible without taking anything apart. Then, once we get the bike running, we can check the airbox again and see if any oil shows up. Once we remove both throttle bodies from the bike, we're going to crack the airbox open, remove the filter and the air intake. Now I'm just going to nuke the entire airbox with brake clean and compressed air to try and blow as much of that oil out as I can. And it's going to make a hell of a mess. We have another oil leak to hunt down coming from underneath the case, and it's completely filthy down there. Using the same logic as the airbox, we're going to clean the underside. Oil could be coming from any number of places under there, and a clean engine will help us pinpoint exactly where it might be coming from. This is a commonly overlooked reason to keep your bike clean. You can tell exactly when and where an oil leak is coming from if your engine isn't coated in grime. The first thing I needed to do was drop the bash plate so I can R&R the oil and oil filter,
which has 4 bolts, 4 nuts here. Oh, that's totally broken. See, we have our bash plate. It's disgusting. And this attachment bushing the nut goes onto is broken. We're gonna need new something when we put this thing back on. You can see that one is completely gone. And this one is on its way. So these are gonna have to be replaced if we're gonna use the same bash plate again. Well, the next thing in this process is we're gonna drain the oil. So we need to remove the oil plug Now, if you want to change oil on one of these bikes, you need one of these oil filter removal tools. You can get them pretty much anywhere, Amazon or from your BMW dealer or from Moto Electrics. Goes in, slide it up here, make sure it's solid. Man, this thing's not tight.
We'll mess up with a can of brake clean and wipe it off with a rag. It doesn't have to be sparkling or spotless. It just has to be clean enough that if new oil appears, you can identify where that oil is coming from. Well, it's a good thing that I was in a cleaning mood today. Now that the underside is sparkling, we're going to replace the oil filter and the oil and then wait to see if anything starts dripping out. All right, let's get the oil back in this bike. Make sure that whenever you replace the oil drain plug, you also replace the crush washer with a new one. And be sure not to over tighten the drain plug. As Nathan likes to say, just get it good and tight. You can strip out the threads on these plugs very, very easily. Or if you get it too tight but not quite strip it out, the heating and cooling of the engine can seize the plug in place and then you'll never get it out. At the shop, we use Liquid Moly 10W40 synthetic oil. Now, I know this isn't necessary anymore, but out of habit, I like to put a little bit of oil inside the oil filter before screwing it on. What is both old habit and necessary is to use a little bit of oil and rub it around the rubber gasket in order to lubricate it. Now get the filter inside the tool, make sure it's snug. Spin it around for fun and put it up into the socket. Now when you're tightening a fuel filter, you want to go just until you feel the filter touch metal and then go 1/4 of a turn past that. As you can see here, I went from this degree to this degree, about 1/4 of a turn. And then just wiggle the tool out and you're installed. Oilheads with oil coolers take 3.75 liters of oil. Grab yourself your funnel and fill it up slowly as not to spill any out onto the engine. And you can see in the sight glass here, it is filled all the way up. You can see a little line at the top. After waiting for a little bit, I'm not seeing any oil leaking out. Previously, this bike was just pouring oil just sitting on the lift. That makes me wonder if perhaps it wasn't engine oil that was leaking, but possibly transmission fluid or something from the final drive. The only way we're going to know for sure is once we start the bike up and put it under pressure and see what comes out. Well, we're just about running into a wall on what we can do without having that fuel pump and being able to start the bike up. It's just preparation time. So we might as well get everything we need put back on the bike and cleaned up so that once we do get the fuel pump and the tank back on, we don't have to do anything else before getting the bike running. That leaves us with cleaning and reinstalling the throttle bodies. Now, cleaning these things is 100 times easier than cleaning and rebuilding carburetors on an airhead. I have my soft toothbrush and my brake clean here, and I'm just going to spray out the entire throttle body and scrub it out with a toothbrush. I'm also going to spray through the passages and then blow them out with some compressed air. This black box on the side of the left throttle body is the throttle position sensor. You don't want to remove it. You don't want to unscrew it. You don't want to adjust it at all. As long as you're not having any problems with poor idling, uneven performance, or throttle sinking, it's likely set correctly, and you don't want to mess with it. You want to pull out the idle jet from the side of the throttle body and scrub off all the grime from the jet itself. Then spray through the passage with some brake clean. we're going to be removing and replacing this O-ring. You can get it off with a tiny pick or a razor blade. Just be careful not to cut into or scratch the sealing surface around the O-ring. Now you can clean out the idle jet passage with some brake clean and a pipe cleaner. And lastly, we can replace the O-ring on the throttle body itself. Now let's look at that intake manifold.
Now, as we saw in a previous episode, these markings on the inside of this inlet manifold, this looks to be where the oil was leaking out of. And I have since located a couple of other manifolds here at the shop, used manifolds, that also had these marks. Not as bad as this one, but they definitely had the exact same mark. So this looks like a factory defect in these, and I don't know whether it is common for those with this factory defect to leak, but we do know that this one did. And I was also able to save our customer about $100, a very good condition used left inlet manifold with no defects at all. So that also tells us that there are some out there with no defects.
When you put the manifold back on the carb body, line up the spark plug cable clip to the top parallel with where the fuel injector goes into the throttle body. Next thing I'm going to do is scrub the sealing surface between the engine and the intake manifold with some brake clean and scrub pad. Once everything is clean, shiny, and re-rubberized, I'm going to put the whole thing back together. All right, Oilheads. Well, that just about wraps it up for today. In the next episode, we're going to take a little hiatus from our friend here. In the July episode of the Oilhead 259 podcast, we're going to be talking to Dave Campbell from Motorcycle Service of San Diego. In that episode, he talks about a tricksy method of replacing the cam chain guides in an oilhead without having to tear the entire engine apart. Now, this method takes a 10 to 12 hour project that you likely have to have done at a shop down to a 1 to 2 hour job that you can do in your garage. He also talks about the 2 highest impact upgrades that you can do to your oilhead to boost performance. And we'll be doing those 2 things on my roster. If any of that sounds exciting to you, join me next month on the Oilhead 259 video companion series. Again, I'm Chris, host of the Oilhead 259 podcast, which you can get at any one of your favorite purveyors of podcast downloads. If you found this episode helpful or just entertaining, please like and subscribe. It's cheap as free, and it's the best way to help us bring content like this to oilheads just like you. So mash that button, tell a friend, and remember, squishy side up, rubber side down. Oilhead 259.